Hey, hey, Savvies! Happy Tuesday! Tuesday at noon Central means that we go live. And this week, you can see I'm not by myself. I have a special guest with me. Super excited to chat with Emma and talk a little bit more and hear about her story. So I know that you guys are just kind of jumping on and joining us. Let us know in the comments that you can hear and see us okay, and also where you're tuning in from. I know that so often we have so many guests from around the world, whether it be on our Facebook or on our YouTube, and we're so excited to have you here. Here they come, Emma. They are joining us live, and we're just going to have a casual conversation. Joined one of these lives before. It's absolutely so inspirational to hear from some of those students who have been in our virtual savvy world for some time, and they've gotten to the point where they've been able to quit their full-time job. I know that many of you hanging out with us today are still working that 9 to 5 and trying to save up and figure out when the right time is to turn in that resignation letter. And so having these chats with some of our students has been absolutely so inspirational and helpful. We are going to have a time for Q&A at the end after Em and I chat, but if you have questions while we're chatting, something sparks a question along the way, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments and we will be more than happy to answer them. So without further ado, Emma, let's just learn a little bit more about you. Tell us who you are, where you're from, family, all of those fun facts about yourself.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. My name is Emma Ferric. I am the founder of Elf Operations and Operations consulting firm for growing small businesses and entrepreneurs who want to scale their business without overwhelm and burnout. I'm originally, and I still am, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so right outside the city there, and I have two beautiful girls with a third on the way. So that was kind of why I started my business. At the time, I only had one little girl, and I, sorry, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole in this story, but I guess when I started my business, I was just a single mama, and it was just me and my daughter. So that's really why I started Elf Operations, and it's just such a huge part of why I love doing what I do and helping other entrepreneurs be able to live the life that they love and what they want with a business that really supports that. So I guess that's like my brief intro, which we can dive into.
I love it. And if y'all notice, she's not sitting at her desk. She's out living the freedom life. Where are you and why are you sitting in the car?
Oh, yeah. So I'm in Outer Banks, North Carolina, which is not where I'm normally at. But we are on vacation this week, and I still wanted to make time to pop on and share my story. And we're just having vacation, and it's actually my birthday week, so it turned out good timing.
I love it. Living the freedom life, even having a conversation. Thanks for being here. And thanks for your family for sparing you for a few moments. So you kind of told us a sneak peek. You were a single mom. You had one baby girl. Why were you exploring virtual assistants? What did life look like at that point in life?
Yeah, it was such a different point in my life at that time. It was pre-pandemic. It was around October 2019. I started, looking online for ways to make money. I was stuck in a 9 to 5 corporate job, dealing with issues from a domestic violence situation in in a relationship. So, probably that happened almost a year before I started my business. So it took like a year to get everything back on track, to just like get myself and my daughter situated and back on our feet. And we had just moved in to our own place after living with family for a couple of months. And I was working my 9 to 5 corporate job, and I just kept looking at the finances and looking at the budget because at the time I was 22. I just think about the numbers here, 22 at the time. And I was like, my student loans are crazy. This daycare bill for full-time daycare is more than my rent. And like, I looked at my budget, I was like, I'm negative 400 and some dollars every month, even with a full-time job. And I couldn't get assistance because I had a corporate pretty decent like corporate job right out of college. But there was just so much debt and so many expenses weighing on me. And I wanted to be able to have financial freedom and not count on my ex for child support, because that was still a way he would take control or find some way to have control in our lives. So I really wanted to be able to live independently with or without that, that child support or those finances to support my daughter and I. And my corporate job was really, really hard for me to manage because of not only court and custody and all those things, and being the single parent in the situation, because I was the one doing, sick from daycare days, doctor visits, all kinds of things like that. So I started looking into ways I could make money online, ways to make more flexibility, because I was also very young professional and in a very male dominated field. I was a project scheduler for a government contracted manufacturing company. I was very young, very much the minority in my business, and in my industry. So, and anytime I tried to switch or go somewhere else, they just never really took me seriously. So I was so frustrated with not being respected, not getting the experience, not getting the chance, and then also my finances. So I eventually found virtual assistants on Pinterest, ironically, because I was originally oh, maybe I'll blog, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. But my background is in supply chain management and operations management. So I really wanted to keep that piece in whatever I did to help make more money and have that flexibility to be home with my daughter.
Yeah. Well, and I know that you're not alone in various pieces of your story, but what I'm hearing is there was such a weightiness. There was a weightiness of this toxic relationship that you were getting out. Also, so proud of you for recognizing that. And even though it was hard, you got out of that and looking for ways to make a better life for you and your daughter. But there was weightiness of your job and being in the minority and not being able to move forward, and the weightiness of being negative for all of the expenses. Life is not cheap, y'all. Life is expensive, right? And not only is it your life now, you have a little one who needs extra love and care and all of the things. But I want to even just stop, y'all, and celebrate you, Emma, for seeing I need to make a change. This is not what I want for my life. This is not what I want for my daughter. And I'm sure we'll talk about this even later, is what an example that you set for your daughter, even at the very early stages, right? So you were looking for a way out. You found virtual assistants on Pinterest. I think that's how I found about virtual assistants, or that's how I kind of got into the whole thing. What were you, as you were researching and learning more about virtual assistants, what were some of the frustrations that you experienced in getting started?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel one, I was just initially starting. It was the question of, how can I do this? Is this right for me? Would I be taken seriously? Could I actually make money like this? And those weren't all just frustrations. And there was a lot of limiting self beliefs. And because I was healing from all the trauma, that stuff was coming up, and frustrations that I've learned that I didn't realize at the time, but looking back on, were, being the face and the brand of my business was very hard for me as a trauma survivor and a domestic violence survivor. That is now something I talk about with other entrepreneurs as well, because for those of us leaving those situations, it's not always safe for us to be putting ourselves out there. When I was getting started, a lot of the coaches or the gurus that I was following was just get out there and host these live launches, or go out there and go live on Facebook, or go live here and just be that face of your business. And that was really frustrating for me, because I didn't want to just plaster me or my daughter or our lives on social media and share that piece of us, because who knows, I was so worried about who's going to send this back to him, or would this lead him to us, or those kind of things. So that was a huge frustration for me, was getting that advice and not real. Now I know that there's other ways to market yourself, and you can use your brand and all these things. That was a huge frustration getting started. And just the overwhelm of how to start the business. Like I went to business school, but never learned all the things that go into marketing and sales and the admin and the legal and just like those types of nitty gritty pieces and how to do them well for yourself when you don't have a big company backing you.
Oh, that's so good. I'm curious, like for those of you hanging out and watching us chat today, let us know some of the frustrations that you're experiencing inside of your business. Like, do you relate to Emma? Maybe you even relate to her in leaving that toxic relationship. Like, you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
Emma's story is absolutely so inspirational and encouraging that you can get to the other side of that. And maybe, you're new,
Yeah.
never owned a business, never even went to business school, and just not sure what this looks like. Let us know some of those frustrations that you've experienced inside of your business. Now, Emma, you were researching virtual assistants and working through that. When did you join the Savvy System? At that time, was it called the Savvy System or was it called the boot camp?
I think I knew it as the virtual savvy, and it was still the savvy system. And so I feel like I'm a minority. I literally found virtual assistants through different blogs and different pins, but I think the pins and videos that caught my attention the most were the virtual savvy pins, and then went through the master class, like the video, the email sequence, and I kind of like thought about it for a couple weeks, and I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I want to do it with help. I want to do this. So I think it was pretty early on when I decided like I'm going to do virtual assistantship. I joined the virtual savvy system right away in my business because I didn't want to take too long to get it up and running. So I took the last little bit of my tax return that I had saved up and I invested that into myself, which was so scary at the time because I was like, this is a huge chunk of what I have saved, but I knew that the return on the investment would be greater to invest and get started and not have as many hiccups as if I was trialing and erroring on my own, because I also only had that short chunks of time, in between full-time work and being a mama. Like I wanted all the help I could get to get going fast enough.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many golden pieces there and so many pieces of relatability. Like I remember I joined pretty quickly after I found the virtual savvy. For the same reasons. Like I didn't want to make a mistake. I wanted to get this off the ground as quickly as possible. And I really wanted somebody to tell me what to do and how to do it. But the investment was so scary. Like, and I wasn't a single mom like you were at the time, but my budget was very limited. Like to invest in an online course, which was very weird for me, was scary. But knowing now what we know, like looking back, the return on your investment was huge, right? Mm-hmm. So let's kind of dive into some of that. You joined Savvy System, learned about virtual assistants, getting yourself out there. I would love to hear more about how you marketed yourself with some of the hurdles. We'll get to that. But when did you find your first client? When did you get over that hump and start being a CEO business owner past when you just said yes?
Yeah. So my first client actually came, if I'm remembering correctly, because it's been so long and so many clients in between, is 2 months after, because I joined in October. I took all of October to like implement and go through and deep dive. And I took November part of that. So my first client was in January of 2020 when I first got my first client. And that felt so good. And it was all word of mouth because I had just told people like the system says, just tell a few people that no, you don't have to pitch. Just like say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Can I connect with anybody? So a friend of mine and a colleague of mine from when I was in college, I reached out to him. I was like, look, this is this thing that I'm doing. I don't know if you know anybody. And he put me in touch with my first client, which eventually turned into a mentor for me later down the road. And she was local, which was awesome because we met for coffee. Like that was our discovery call kind of thing in person. And so 2 months after I was like, yes, I want to do this, I got my first client. And then not long after that, because of the pandemic, I quit and went full time, which was that's like a whole another story, which was I was so not ready for, but because of the pandemic, I just had to make the jump. And so figuring that out was interesting, but the clients did start to come in after I took the leap, that like leap of faith, so to speak.
Yeah. So when you first started, what kind of services were you offering at the time?
Yeah, and that was like a huge hurdle, I think, was pricing myself, like going through that and like those pricing blocks and those money blocks. But I was offering general virtual assistant services, and I was doing hourly packages to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, so you talked a little bit about what you were doing in your corporate job, government, contract work, project. Did you find that even what you were doing in the corporate setting, or maybe even jobs that you had in the past, did you see that those experiences translated over to the virtual space well? Did you have any difficulty or challenges with that?
They do. I feel like they did translate really well, especially for like I was in capacity planning and resource planning and management and inventory. So it was different, and I've applied my background in different ways since I work predominantly with service providers and online business owners. So that was kind of a hurdle of how to convert what I knew into the marketing lingo that the business owners would understand, especially service providers, because I was working in a project-based field for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry, a product-based business for so long. So having like those tangible goods, and then there was also the tech hurdle, which I love tech. It wasn't really like a hurdle for me, but there was new tech that I didn't get to access because our industry was so behind in tech and software and tools. Like that was so fun for me to like learn ClickUp and Dubsado and like all these fun tools that I think are amazing to play around with. And like, I love learning new tools. But having that background of the Excel and data analytics and operations management and resource management translated, especially since once I did make the jump full time, I went deeper into more online business manager and operations consulting because I identified that there was such a need for small business owners to get them to that point because they would just skip over that when they got started, or they just didn't know how to translate that into the online space because they didn't like tech or want to work with tech. A lot of the older entrepreneurs that I've worked with, or the service providers, because they were really good at what they do, but they're not good at that business management piece.
Yeah, that's so.
I don't know if I'm saying that correct.
No, that's good. So what I want y'all to hear is that whatever experience that you've had, even if you're younger and don't have a whole lot of corporate experience or professional experience, maybe you've never even gone to college, who you are and how you have been shaped by your past experiences can absolutely support you and transfer over in the virtual space. It's just kind of exploring that and what that looks like. And that's what we teach.
Oh, yeah.
Here at the Virtual Savvy, and specifically in our Savvy system, when you get to that point of what are my services, what am I going to offer for people to pay me, is you start exactly where you are. And Emma, you kind of talked about how you started with general admin, but then you realized and saw a need that was necessary that you wanted to tap into, and so it just kind of transformed. Tell me a little bit more about that transformation. Obviously, you're not at the same pricing you are now. Like, how did that transformation look for you?
Yeah, I also would like to preface off of that point. I only was in corporate I had internships and things like that before, but I was only in corporate about 2 years before I quit because I also didn't want to climb the corporate ladder. So if you don't have a lot of experience, I was 22, 23 at the time. That did affect like how I priced myself because I was so worried about, being younger, but you shouldn't worry about that. Like Rachel said, I just wanted to preface that, like, it wasn't like I had tons and tons of experience, but I did have enough experience that I felt confident offering the online business manager services and offering that consulting piece. And the tech, I self-taught myself. I went through the tech vault. I bought extra courses on specific one or two softwares that I really liked and really enjoyed for my business and went really deep into that. So you can go, there's a lot in the Savvy system to get you started, but there's other resources too to just like build your credibility as you're getting started. So that would be like one tip I have is it's not about a degree. It's not about, your corporate experience. It's about how you present yourself, the relationships you make, like diving deeper into the operations side for me and how my services have changed. Cause now I offer an online membership for operations for business owners who kind of want an OBM but aren't ready for it. That's really what that membership looks like. And is giving them support in building those foundations to scale their business and build their team. I have a VIP day, which is something that I thought was just never going to happen when I first started my business, or that sounded so great. I didn't know what I could do. So my offers have changed in a lot of different ways. And I feel like they evolve still to this day because I just redid my offer stack, I would say, at the beginning of the year. And then I have my retainer consulting packages and ClickUp builds is what my team offers and supports other entrepreneurs with. So that's very different than the hourly or the retainer that I did based off of hours. So these offers are so different, but I love them because they meet entrepreneurs at where they are at different levels.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. So not only have your offers changed, but your life has changed. Right? You're not still living with your mom with one daughter. Like that has, how has your why evolved? Because I'm a believer that you start something for one specific reason, but as you go through journey, that shifts and changes and evolves with you. So how have you seen your why changed over the years?
Yeah, I feel like last year I got so much clarity on this. I felt so stuck for a long time, but my why, of course, when I started was just get out of debt, get like hold of the finances. Like I feel like so many people, that's why they get started is they want to make more money. They want to make a little extra money. And my why was obviously to spend more time with my daughter. And that's still like a huge part of my why because now I'm going to have 3 daughters. But my why isn't so personal, like just to me. I feel like in the last couple of years, I realized this business could be so much more for women who are in the same space as me. So my why is really to help. And this is on our website. If you go there or like follow me, you'll see I talk about the thrive over survive motto, mission. I refer to it in both ways, where I want to help as many women love their life and not just survive their day to day. So we do that with our operations services, getting them back on track, helping them have scalable businesses, getting over hurdles like tech, or hiring or team building, team management. And so that they can get their lives back on track and be the present mamas they want. And I also do that through, the goal this year is to hire more women who are in similar situations that I was when I started my business, and they struggle with putting themselves out there or being the face of their business, but they really need that flexible remote work and that VA work that can help them succeed in life and be there for their kids. So I really feel like my why is to just help as many women as I possibly can live a better life.
Oh, that's so good. Now, Emma, you're not necessarily behind the curtain anymore. Like I see you all the time out there. What was that moment in time? And maybe it was, a stretch of time where you felt more confident and more able to be out there and put yourself out there considering what you had come through.
Yeah, I think last year is when it shifted, and I would say it was a long course of time, a lot of personal development journey, growth, healing through the trauma, talking with different mentors about strategies that would make sense. Because for a long time, I was like, do I even want to keep doing this? Like, I felt so defeated. Like, I was kind of afraid of success because of my abuser. Like, would I attract this attention? So that was something I had to go through in that personal development journey of, okay, I am safe. And that is also because my now husband, definitely helped rebuild that confidence and that relationship with myself and with others. That, when you're leaving a trauma situation and part of survival mode is like, you just don't feel safe. Eventually, I was able to feel safe in the life I was living, in the life I was building, and get my power back for myself, like just self-love, self-worth, and know that like the success wouldn't bring us harm and it wouldn't
Mhm.
all those lies that your brain tells you out of fear, that my mission was bigger. Putting myself out there was okay. And my message is meant to help someone, whether it be one person every time I go live or whatever. And it was having people come on my team to help me, because I know where my strengths and my weaknesses are now, that I give good ideas for content and copy. And then I need someone else to take it and kind of like get it over the finish line. So for like my content, like I have my team really help me, because I need that feedback. And I've realized in my creative process that I need the back and forth. So I think that answers your question. I might have gone a little off on a tangent there, but yeah.
No, that was so good. My next question, you already just kind of answered it. And how have you seen yourself grow? And there's been
Yeah.
exponential growth. And another thing that I heard you say, is that I was afraid of success. I was afraid of putting
Hmm.
myself out there because I was going to be successful. And I think that that's important to understand, that some of us, that's the actual fear. It's not the
Yeah.
feeling of failure or not being able to succeed. It's that, what if I actually do succeed and I get out there? And that fear of success can be attached to a variety of different circumstances. I would love to
Yeah.
know in the comments, like, what are some of y'all's fears? Like, what are you walking through? What are you
Yeah.
every day? And no, I know it's a vulnerable question, and I know that it's kind of scary to even admit what we're afraid of, or even the next step to put it out there. But owning it and recognizing it is the first step in being able to overcome it. And Emma, you have overcome
Yeah.
it. What does life look like now? Give us a little. I know that you're pregnant with third baby. You're married. How long have you been married? Tell us a little bit more about what life looks like now.
Yeah, looking back, it looks so different, because it's going to be 4 years that I've started my business this October. And when I started my business, like, I'm probably going to get emotional because I'm hormonal and stuff. I never would have thought that I'd like meet all these women from all over the world and connect with so many. Like, that's another piece that connected me to so many clients and so many women, was sharing my story and them saying like, oh, I've gone through that. I've never publicly said that, but I've gone through something, and it's hard for me, or like, I've impacted and connected with so many women because of my story. So getting to work with women from Australia, New Zealand, and learning about other people and connecting with them has been so crazy to me. And just the fact that now, yeah, I am married, and that my business, when I talk to other people about it, is my business helped me heal and help me grow, because it connected me to women who do RTT, which is rapid transformation therapy. Like, I've connected with women in the online space who do such unique things that aren't talked about, like where I live or in person or anything like that. So getting to heal through my business has been such a big journey. And then it has brought me closer to my husband, because it changes our communication, because, it's tough being that entrepreneur. Luckily, my husband is also an entrepreneur, so that brought us a lot closer together. We're two self-employed, really young couple, so we're very much a minority. We get to have this time with our children. Like, we're so ecstatic that we can give our kids these memories that we never got as children, because he grew up homeless. I grew up pretty poor as well. So the fact that we can take them on vacation, we can work from wherever. And our businesses can support that. It's just, and we've been married a year, but we've been together for about 3 years now. So he was a big reason I even started my business, and has kept me going through my business. I know that not a lot of women can say that, because it is hard to talk to their spouse, or for their spouse to understand. But every time I've like wanted to give up, he's always been there saying, you're not going to be happy in a 9 to 5. You want to be with the kids. You're so good at what you do, so he's been a huge help, and my business looks so different because of him. I don't think I could have made it to what it is today without him. And now he's actually one of my clients with his construction company, that like I do things for his business that I don't do for a lot of my clients, with the social media, the marketing, content creation, things like that. So I think it's brought us a lot closer together. And like I said, this is about to be my second maternity leave. I wouldn't have got that with other businesses, or if I was still working corporate, really, I wouldn't have got these abilities. And just the fact that I can be so present for my girls and be there when they need me.
That's so good. And the thing that I want y'all to hear is that Emma got to the point where she was able to share her story and put it out there. Maybe not so much right at the beginning, but
Right.
getting the courage and overcoming that fear, because once you shared your story, the doors open for other people to be encouraged and influenced and inspired. And so many of you watching today, your story may not be exactly like Emma's, right? Like your story is so unique to you, but your story is inspirational. Nikki, I saw your comment earlier. Like, you're at a different stage in life, right? You're on the, I'm not a new corporate person. I've been in corporate for a while, and are people going to accept me because I am older? Like, there are so many things that you have to offer inside of your specific story that can be inspirational and powerful for so many. And we don't want to keep that inside of us, right? For too long. Okay, so 2 more questions, and then we'll get to some questions I see in the comments. The first one is, what is one piece of advice you would give to those hanging out with us today or watching the replay if they're considering virtual assistants or they're just getting started? What is one piece of advice you would give them?
Just, I feel like this is 2 parts, but it's the same thing. It's one, the first part's going to be cliche, but it's so true. If you're thinking about virtual assistants, a business or a side hustle or anything like that, just do it. It's so worth it. You're gonna get the return on your investment. And I know the fear that's gonna come up. So my second piece of advice would say, trust your gut and trust yourself, because that is one thing I wish I would have done way more when I got started, was trusting my ability and my gut so much more. And don't, like, there's a lot of good advice out there, but make sure you weigh in on yourself. Like, is this right for me? So trusting your gut would be huge.
Oh, I love that. Okay, and then one more question. If you could travel back in time, okay, to yourself and when you first started your business, what is something that you would tell yourself back then? Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
Probably stop getting in your own way and stop sabotaging yourself, because I feel like the biggest hurdle I've had is my own mind and my own limiting beliefs, and just I've held myself up the longest. Like, if I could go back, I would tell myself, here's some good offers, and don't be afraid to go out there and share your story. Like, don't hold yourself back.
So good. Okay, Emma, thank you so much for joining me today. If you have some extra minutes, let's jump into the comments and answer some questions.
Oh, yeah.
I know your family's waiting for you to join them back at the aquarium, so I don't want to keep you too long. But shout out to all of those participating in the comments. I know that sometimes we ask these challenging questions.
Thank you so much.
That are like introspective, and you have to put yourself out there. But being introspective and digging in deep to who you are can help you identify how you take the next step forward. So I love that. Okay, let's dive in. First of all, people are asking how they can connect with you. What platforms are you on? Where can they find you? Let us know, and then we can always circle back and drop links in the comments as well.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, all elf_operations, or just elf operations. You can find me that way, or on my website. I have a whole resource page. I'll link you back to all my socials.
Awesome. And elf operations, like in elf, ELF. You have to tell us, how did you come up with that name?
So before I was married, my maiden name was Ferric. I still go by my maiden name because of my branding. It's my initials and then operations, for the operations focus in the business.
I love that. I use my initials. My initials spell rad. So that's how I got the business name. I love it. Okay. First question for you, Emma. Did you stick to your pricing for your first few clients? When did you start increasing your prices?
Yes, I did keep to the pricing for my first few clients. And I would say it was probably once I jumped in more full time 6 months later that I started, really factoring in my time versus like what my budget needed to be, what I could be doing. And I reevaluated after I was doing those first few clients, their services, because I also had a problem where it's not really a problem, but I was going above and beyond for my clients, like a lot of us do. So my scope, I had let myself scope creep. So I did stick to that
Yes.
pricing. And then I started to say like, okay, I really need to shift to the retainer model because my clients like having so much access to me, and like these are the services we're kind of like bleeding into. So once I learned those lessons, I started implementing that for newer clients as they started to come on, and I would renegotiate pricing with the clients as our contracts came up.
Oh, that's it. Okay, so you used a term. Some may not know what the term scope creep means. Can you give a quick definition of what that means?
Yes, sorry. Scope creep is when and this is like, I guess, like a deeper conversation, but when you agree on your terms and conditions in your contract when you first start services and you go, or you or the client, and usually it's both, go beyond what is agreed upon in that contract.
How many of us, y'all, be honest,
Mm.
how many of us have ever done that? Too many times. Scope creep is
Yep.
something you have to protect yourself against, like yourself implementing, as well as your clients trying to scope creep into what they've agreed upon. And having those strong boundaries is so, so important. Here's another great
Yes.
question. How do you know when it's time for you to start hiring and start growing a team? What did that look like for you? How did you know you were ready?
And I learned this lesson from hiring too soon because I was like, okay, I'm going to invest in my team and like hire these women to help me because I knew there were things I didn't want to do in my business, didn't like to do. But I said, okay, I'm going to hire and I'm going to delegate and I'm just going to hope that not hope the money comes in, but I'm going to, you know, kind of take a leap of faith and hire before I was ready, which was a huge mistake because I still didn't have my mission or my values like totally defined as a business. I kind of thought that was fluff, and I didn't have a good direction yet for them. Like I did make that like initial mistake of I hired them on and didn't give them enough direction. I just thought, they come in and they would fix things for me in my marketing. They would guide me through, which was not the case. So you know when you're ready, when one, you're close to burnout, you're just working too much, you just don't have enough time. That's usually like a good sense of, you need to build better systems, like automate some more, and I always say that to clients, automate before you hire because it's easier to manage tech than it is to manage another human. So when you are getting to, I hate putting a number on it because there is sometimes I say the 10K mark or close to, because that's usually when I see people hitting capacity, but it's really on a case by case basis. So when you have it in your budget and when you're starting to feel yourself at capacity, and if you've already streamlined as much as you can, and like when you're looking to hire, I always say like make sure you're offboarding things that are really like need the human touch. So I guess that's kind of like a deeper conversation. I'm trying to keep it higher level because I don't want to go on down too far that rabbit hole. So you'll know when you have it in your budget. So like when you can start to budget for it. One of like my personal finance friends / business finance friends always says, if you can put away money to hire for at least 2 to 3 months before you hire, then your budget's ready for it. But also when you are ready, you'll know by the amount of work you have. Kind of like if you're at capacity.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you said. In fact, we just kind of wrapped up a conversation about like what it looks to scale your business and hire a team. You can catch the replay for the 6-figure VA. You can go look on our YouTube channel and find those replays. But that's one of the things that we talk about is hit that feeling of being stuck or stagnant or overwhelmed. Like, that's the point to dig in deep is this the time for me to hire? And I love the thought that you said from your business friend is even planning ahead of that or thinking, you know what, if this client signs, I'm going to be near capacity. I need to start putting away, some to get ready. I love that tip. I think that's really, really powerful for sure. Okay, I see one more question, unless more come through. If you have any other questions you want to ask Emma before we let her go. How do you schedule yourself time off or sick days? You're on vacation now. What does that look like for you to schedule that inside your business?
Yeah, so and like I can also talk about this in a short sense of I did plan maternity leave, and I will say I did not plan my first maternity leave well at all because my business was such a baby still that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the infrastructure ready. So having good infrastructure is so important to schedule yourself time off or sick days. And what I did at the beginning of my business looks very different than now. So I'm going to give both pieces of advice for anyone who's like still really starting off and maybe doesn't have the team or the support. Because if it's just you, you are the sole person providing those services. So it looks a lot different than if you do have a team. So if you're newer, just being open and being honest, and as someone who does manage remote teams and have dealt with it on the other end, please communicate to your client, to your manager, to your team leader, whoever that may look like, just to like say, hey, I'm going to need the day off because like a sick day is going to be a way more like impromptu thing than like scheduling like a vacation or something like that. So communication is so key with clients. Don't like leave them guessing. And as someone, like I said, I manage remote teams, so it's super frustrating when RVAs don't tell us that, hey, I'm off, or they only tell one person, like there's no policy in place on the team. I've had that happen for a lot of teams. Like I'm new to getting their operations cleaned up. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're a business owner, making sure you have that time off policy in place with your team. And then if you are scheduling time off, making sure that it's planned ahead of time and you have infrastructure. So like one thing for me was making sure I have a good lead gen strategy. I have still like referrals and pipelines so things aren't going stagnant. And then for my clients that I serve, I do bulk prep a lot of my services and do a lot of work the week before, but they knew well in advance, like, hey, I'm going to be off all week and this is what you can expect to get done. This is what's on pause. And my maternity leave, it was a lot different because I didn't have a team, but I white labeled my services for a month and a half. So those are a little bit, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole because depending on where you are, it's going to look different. So those are a few different ways.
No, that's so good and so practical. I love that. So I know that some of you watching today are not quite at the stage yet that Emma is, right? Like she's got a team and she's managing other teams and a lot of different other moving pieces. You may be back farther over here where you're just starting, but I want you to pull out the things that you've heard today and even drop them in the comments. Like what was most helpful for you to hear today? What was most inspirational for you here today? What are you taking away from today that's going to help you take the first next step? Is it to share your story and be willing to get out there more? Is it to, start putting a little bit aside because you know that soon enough you're going to need to start hiring a team? Or maybe it's communication needs to improve. Or maybe you need to stop scope creeping and stop saying yes to everything. There's so many golden nuggets that even some of you who are a little bit earlier in your stage of launching or growing or scaling your business can pull out from today. So let us know in the comment what was most helpful for you today. Emma, thank you so much for stepping aside from vacation and joining us today. I learned new things about you that I didn't know before. We love having our veteran Savvy Systems students here. Congratulations on all the success that you've had and all the success that you're going to continue to have. Remember, elf_operations. You can follow Emma on all the different channels and find her. Thanks so much for being here and have a great rest of your day, Emma, and a great rest of your vacation.
Thank you so much for having me. And I am so thankful to give back to the Savvy System. If you guys are on the fence or anything, it's what jump started my business. So I'm so thankful to have the community, to have the team. You guys are all you ladies, I should say, are amazing. So keep going, keep at it. All the people watching, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks, Emma. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you later.
Thanks. Bye.